if we are eating the right kind of food, so we'll have the right balance in the earth element. Our human body would be the physical body would be equivalent to or similar to like the hardware, and the mind would be like a software. That's why all the diseases that we see, they are either hypertension or hypotension, hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, or hyperthyroidism, hypothyroid. Why this is?
How this the entire system works. So the five elements which are kind of making up the entire body, and then there are three dosha like Vata, Pitta and Kapha, how they are each responsible for a cross functional thing. So how do you think the balance between these three forces is responsible for either the state of homeostasis or the state of disease? Like the disbalances, how is that causing the disease? What balances or disbalances these three systems?
In terms of balance now, since if all these three systems would be balanced, and if there is any imbalance that translates into a disorder, so each one, as we has mentioned, that each of this like Vata, when we say is air and Akasha, so if the Vata is more or less, it can be controlled by these two elements. Same way, if our metabolic processes, there is something disorder, the same energy has to be controlled. Like for fire element, all these things which can control fire has to be used. Same way, a third thing, that is the Kapha or immune system, all the substances which regulate this thing can be used to bring out the balance. So balance, homeostasis thing, that we know that anything which is overperforming or underperforming, both ways will end up in having a disorder. That's why all the diseases that we see, they are either hypertension or hypotension, hyperglycemia or hypoglycemia, or hyperthyroidism, hypothyroid. Why this is? Because either these are imbalanced in a way that they are over-functioning the system, or they're underperforming. So in either case, we need to bring the balance. There are also two levels of the balance that is required. Now, if we have to understand our human body, there are two components, two aspects of that. Just like a computer, we know that we have a hardware and we have a software. So these are the two components of the same. Without software, hardware will not be functional, and software alone cannot be of any use. So both have to be together. And besides that, besides hardware and software, you need yet another element, which is the energy. You have to connect your laptop or desktop to power, because to get the energy. Without that energy, both things will not function. So equivalent of that, our human body would be the physical body would be equivalent to or similar to like the hardware, and the mind would be like a software. So both mind and body actually function together, and for that we require the energy. Now in a computer, you require only one type of energy, that is electrical energy. But in human body, there are five different, all the sensory inputs actually can be used for receiving the energy. So there are energy which comes from like earth. It comes from all the food that we eat, which provides all the nutrition and energy. And if we are eating the right kind of food, so we'll have the right balance in the earth element. Same way, when we say water obviously we think in terms of tap water or some river, but water is also something that like we eat from nature, like fruit juices. Those are also water. And you will see that nature, there are different types of fruits which we find in different seasons. In winter, mostly you'll find all this what you call citrus fruits, whereas in summer you will find all the watermelon kind of too. So they are also water, but they are therapeutic waters. So that's why when you drink those water in the right season, then you will also have the therapeutic effect. So water as such can be used for therapeutic purposes. Now, for balancing this earth element, like Kapha, then the second element is the fire, or this what you call the Pitta. So that can be balanced using the light. And that has been my interest also. So how light can control the energy systems within our body, and that light, when we refer, originally light comes from sun. So sun has a tremendous effect. So it can actually regulate any of the biological systems. You can increase or decrease any biological system depending on what kind of frequency you're using. So if you are exposing yourself to the sunlight, you have been discussing about the early morning sun, just after sunrise, there you get the right kind of vibrations. And if you are exposed to that, your system will function normally, because these are the essential components that we need. Normally what people do, that they are afraid to go out in the sun. Why? One thing, because they feel that their skin will get darkened because of the pigmentation, or they will get sunburned. So what happens that when we talk of sunlight, it's not a single entity. There are 7 different frequencies of light. Those we perceive as 7 different colors. Now from red to violet, there are Vibgyor, what we call as. Now beyond violet is the ultraviolet, and beyond red is the infrared. So all the damages that we see is either because of ultraviolet or because of the infrared. But all the 7 frequencies which are in between, we refer to them as a visible frequency of light or visible light, those are essential, and we do need those to balance our system. So that's what when we get exposure to the sunlight, we absorb that energy. And thirdly, the air, of course. So we know that we take that energy through the breathing. Now, when we talk of air, normally people will understand air just as a mixture of oxygen and nitrogen, but that's not true. Even science has not reached to the understanding of the air. So air is not oxygen and nitrogen. I'll give you an example. Suppose if I take a glass of water and I add 1 spoon of sugar and dissolve it, it will be a clear solution. Then I take a spoon of salt, I dissolve it, it will be again it dissolve and become a clear solution. Now if I say the definition of water is a mixture of sugar and salt, so this will be a wrong definition. Water is not a mixture of sugar and salt, but water is carrying sugar and salt dissolved into it. That will be the correct way of putting it. Same way, when we say oxygen, nitrogen and other gases, the air is carrying those gases. Air is not oxygen. So actually when we breathe 2 things. We breathe oxygen and we breathe air. And oxygen is utilized for all oxidative metabolism in the body, which is absorbed through the lungs, goes to our red blood cells, and which take it to different parts of the body. And there is an energy exchange, and then we release that in the carbon dioxide. So that is one part of the breathing process. The second part, which people, the science has not reached or learned about, that is the actual air element, which is the energy for the mind. That's why all the yogic processes, all the exercise are based on the breathing process. And interestingly, breathing process is the only biological process which is under voluntary and involuntary control both. This is the only biological process. Your heartbeat, you cannot control. This is involuntary. Your hand movement is voluntary. It will not happen involuntarily. But breathing is the only thing you can do voluntarily. And as soon as you stop breathing voluntarily or consciously breathing, it will stop and go into it will take over, like unconsciously you will start breathing, which is under involuntary control. So that gives a clue that why it is so, that how breathing is important, and you, by regulating the breathing process, you can regulate both mind and body. So that is the principle of the yogic breathing exercises and all the kriya processes. So that is the element which regulates this our third element, which is for akasha and air. So Vata and akasha, of course, is again, as we said, we discussed this, as the sound is the quality, and sound can also be used as a therapeutic ingredient. And therefore, a lot of sounds which are, when you go out in the nature, for example, when you go to a forest, you feel good. Why? Because of that, there is a natural sound. When you go to the ocean, when you see this waves of ocean coming and you hear those concentrate, you also feel relaxed. So all these 5 Panchabhuta in the form of the Tridosha, these are the 3 regulatory principles, they can have a therapeutic effect. So if there is any imbalance between these, you can correct it using any of the 5. But mostly the Ayurvedic principle, they use the herbal medicine, which is the part of the earth, because earth gives rise to all these plants. And there are plants categorized which can regulate all the 3 systems, like Kapha. This is what I was studying at, this immunomodulatory effect of the medicinal plants. So I was looking at those plants which has effect on the immune system. Similarly, there are set of plants which are effect on our hormonal system. There are also plants which also have effect on our neural system. Like for example, I give you Brahmi, which is very good for our brain and neurological system. So like in each category you will find plants. So what the Ayurvedic doctors, when he sees you, he will find first what are the imbalances, and depending on the imbalances, they prescribe these different permutation combination of medicinal plants. So that is one part of the treatment. But there are other elements also which can be used for therapeutic purposes.